Today is June 10th, 2025, the 15th anniversary of the Xenoblade franchise. And while I understand that you probably feel very old just hearing that, your bones are aching, your lower back pain really hurts, but I need you to hang in there, okay? I need you to stay alive for the eventual Switch 2 updates. They're coming, I swear. I think most of us assume that it's going to be a free update, but considering this is the 15th anniversary, we need to aim a little higher, guys. Let us speculate on what could possibly be the Switch 2 editions of this beloved franchise. Now, admittedly, it's a little bit tricky because what a Switch 2 edition entails is not exactly consistent. So I think it's best if we organize it by what at least I believe is guaranteed, what I believe to be realistic, what I think is plausible, and then what is definitely borderline fanfiction. You know, I'm not trying to get too excited here. I don't want to set any sort of unrealistic expectations. We do have to stay grounded, but still be excited. It's the 15th anniversary. It's going to be a fun discussion. Let's get going here. As far as what's guaranteed, it's pretty obvious, right? We're talking at minimum 1080p 60 frames per second. And this is a massive deal, because Xenoblade X Definitive Edition showed me and everyone else just how glorious these games can look at 1080p. I'm not even asking for 4K. I mean, that'd be nice, but just having 1080p, it really just opened my eyes. We've been through just so much inconsistency with the resolution in Xenoblade. Xenoblade 2 on handheld looks like a potato, you know what I mean? So to have it at 1080p at the very least would just be so awe-inspiring. To finally express these beautiful worlds in their full glory, that alone is so exciting. But then we get to the frame rates. I wish I emphasized this more in my latest video. That comparison video I made, you could probably tell I made it in a rush because it was launch day. I'm not even talking 60 frames. Right now, at 30 frames per second, it's like a miracle. It feels so good. I know it might not sound like a big deal, but it really is. In the long run, it really is a big deal. So imagine how it'll feel when that frame rate is doubled. These enhancements alone would be fine, right? We're really not asking for much. We just want it to look better and run better. And most likely, this is just a free update. But technically, this could be enough to sell it as a $10 Switch 2 edition. As far as we know, this is all they're doing for Pokemon Legends, although I wouldn't doubt if there's more that they haven't revealed yet. But assuming that is the case, I could see it happening for Xenoblade as well. Look, I know Xenoblade is nowhere near as popular as Pokemon, but let's be honest, the fanbase is so loyal that we would pay for it. We would! If there was a $10 upgrade just to see these games in their full visual spectacle, it would be extremely tempting. Obviously, I'd prefer if it was free, but this sort of enhancement, we've been begging for it for a long time. So, they could get away with it if they wanted to. Alright, let's move on to what I deem as a realistic enhancement. And unfortunately, I don't think it's that exciting to a lot of people, but it makes a lot of sense, and it would be more convenient than you might be thinking in your head. And that's mouse controls. Xenoblade on controller functions perfectly. It doesn't need mouse controls, but it is a very MMO-coded franchise, and MMOs are typically played with a mouse. This would particularly be useful for Xenoblade 1 and X because those games make use of the art palette. I understand that some of you guys prefer the art palette to how it is in Xenoblade 2 and 3. I guess those games are just too intuitive or whatever. But hey, if you do prefer it, it's going to be even cooler with mouse controls. It just makes so much more sense because with the art palette, every now and then it's just kind of cumbersome to have to scroll. You have to click left or right several times just to get to a move that you're just dying to use. Like, you already know you gotta use it, but it's gonna take that extra seconds just to scroll the cursor all the way over there. I assure you it'll be much snappier by using a mouse. It's definitely the most realistic option when you compare it to the other Switch 2 features, like the camera and microphone. I don't think... It'd be funny. It would be hilarious if they found a way to use those things. Like, say for example, the microphone. If you were to say the battle quips alongside the characters, you get some sort of stupid buff. I don't know. It would be funny. It would be really like such a meme. Game share also I don't expect, because that's mainly for multiplayer features. Xenoblade X does have multiplayer, but it's not quite the same thing. Among the Switch 2 exclusive features, it's really just the mouse. But I would love it if they added some sort of camera or microphone feature. I don't care. I'm a sucker for silliness. Now things start to get interesting once we talk about what's plausible. I would not bet on any of these things, but I wouldn't doubt them either. I want to take a look at Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Those Switch 2 editions came along with a companion app called Zelda Notes, and while some of those features are immersion breaking, ultimately it is very helpful. It's just a neat thing to exist. If you're a fan of those games, it's worth taking a look. And I think something like that would be really useful for Xenoblade, because let's be honest, we probably used a guide at some point, at least when it came to the side quests, and to have that just be on an app instead of just looking it up, even as something as simple as a more detailed map, that would be really nice. It'd be really handy. I would like that when I want to revisit these games. I could just pop that open and bam, there you go. I don't have to go on these fan wiki websites with all these shitload of ads. I can just have this app. Cool. But what's most exciting about this idea to us diehard Xenoblade fans is that Zelda Notes has this feature called Voice Memories. If you don't know about it, you basically go back to an area in Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild, and the app will play this exclusive dialogue, these lore drops, if you will. And it's really cute. There's some revelations in there too. It just adds so much to the game. And to have that for Xenoblade, I mean, come on. It would just be really cool to have the voice actors come back and just have some more lore, have some more character interactions. I don't know how you could say no to that. That'd be really nice. Looking at this app has reminded me of a sin that Monolith Soft has been dedicated to committing, and that is the lack of a photo mode. How does Xenoblade, after all this time, 15 years, how does it not have a proper photo mode? It's baffling to me. You can't have all those beautiful environments and all those charming characters and not have a photo mode? In the year 2025 especially? Are you serious, Monolith Soft? I'm sure some of you guys are not excited by that, you don't care about a photo mode, but I guarantee you that many players would just go back and they'd be taking cute pictures. You got Melia just doing like a heart pose or something. I don't know. Whatever they want to do with a photo mode, it'd be great. It's just so overdue. Like I said, baffling that this isn't already in any of the Xenoblade games. And that's why I'm putting this in plausible. I wish I could say it's realistic. This is the time, Monolith Soft. This is the one. Make it realistic. It doesn't deserve to be plausible. It should be in guaranteed. Speaking of modes though, I don't expect it whatsoever, but I wouldn't be surprised if they added some sort of small mode. For example, Xenoblade 3's roguelite mode and its DLC, I think that mode is so underrated. I want that mode in every Xenoblade game. I'm not even kidding. Honestly, the whole DLC is underrated because it's overshadowed by Future Redeemed, but that mode especially. So maybe something like that. It's not that big of a deal, but just an experiment. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. I can't tell if I think this is more or less likely, but they could also add 1 or 2 new party members, specifically to Xenoblade 2 and 3. I don't want to spoil it, but for anyone who has beaten Xenoblade 2, you know who they should probably add as Blades in Xenoblade 2. And as for Xenoblade 3, how come Mwamba isn't a hero? Come on, Monolith Soft. Mwamba deserves more. Give us photo mode with Mwamba. Does that not sound worthy of $10 to $20 to you? If there was any new party members, it would definitely be one of, if not both of those games. But I do want to acknowledge that Tyrea is a popular character that was never playable for some reason. It seemed like Future Connected was the perfect opportunity, they just didn't do that. I highly doubt that's gonna happen, but I just want to sprinkle that in there for the Tyrea fans. Why not? Everything I just said is relatively substantial, but I do think there could be some minor quality of life updates. You know, nothing that's compared to a definitive edition, but just some little things here and there. For example, with Xenoblade 1, the affinity grinding was not touched at all, as far as I'm aware. They did it in Xenoblade X, which admittedly needed it more than Xenoblade 1. Xenoblade X affinity grinding was terrible on the Wii U. But it's a shame that Xenoblade 1 didn't get it at all, because with that grinding, that meant that the average player probably didn't see the vast majority of the heart-to-hearts. They were just kind of a pain in the butt to get. You know, I'm assuming that's why in Xenoblade 2 they just made it free. You can just get it. Yeah, I'm not expecting it, but it would be nice because Xenoblade X got it, and also I just feel like that's the one sort of missing quality of life that isn't in Xenoblade 1 for some reason. But we can't talk about quality of life without talking about Xenoblade 2. Now that Xenoblade X has had its definitive edition, Xenoblade 2 is definitely far and away the most clunky to play. And I could see them making the gacha less demanding, and also having the field skills be automatically calculated instead of making the player swap the blades out every time. Those mechanics aren't nearly as much of a detriment as some people want to pretend, but you can't deny that those two small adjustments would make everyone happy. And that's the best news, the fact that they're not even like that big of a change, they're just kind of small things relatively. I think that just makes it a lot more likely, right? It's to the point that I wanted to put this as realistic, but the potential Xenoblade 2 Definitive Edition was enough to give me some uncertainty here. And before you comment, because I know you are, I can see you typing, I can hear you, I can smell you. Before you comment, Definitive Edition wouldn't make sense because it's backwards compatible. Have you seen the current landscape of gaming? Have you seen the amounts of re-releases Persona and SMT keep getting? And it's not like they're the only JRPGs doing it, even Ys, of all things. No offense, but if fucking Ys can do it, I think Xenoblade will be fine. But that makes for the perfect segue to our borderline fan fiction. If we want to talk about a re-release, they can totally justify a re-release of both Xenoblade 2 and 3 because they'll just come with their DLCs. Whether or not a Switch 2 edition is involved, that is an option for them. Now I doubt this will happen because it would be too good of a deal. I've always thought that a Xenoblade collection would be a fever dream, but even something as simple as packaging the DLC with the base game would be a major surprise. In fact, I'm willing to bet that a lot of you didn't even consider that. And think about how sad that is. I just saw a complete edition for Final Fantasy XVI get announced for $70. And I thought to myself, wow, I wish we could pay $70 for the complete Xenoblade 2 or 3 experience, but instead, it's 2025, and we're still gonna have to pay $60 for the base game, $10 for the Switch 2 edition, and then $30 for the DLC. That's $100 US if you weren't keeping track. And that's assuming that the Switch 2 editions are only $10. Mario Party and Kirby are $20 a piece because they're coming with additional gameplay content, basically like a DLC. We've already talked about a few things that could qualify for that, but I have notoriously been a believer that Xenoblade 2 could potentially get another story expansion. We just had Xenoblade X's Chapter 13, so how about we call it Xenoblade 2's Chapter 11? I've discussed this at length before, but I don't care. I'm doing it again, so here's a quick spoiler warning if you need it. There are 3 major plot holes regarding Xenoblade 3, and conveniently, they all have to do with Xenoblade 2. I refer to them as the 3 ghosts of Xenoblade's past, that being Nia, Mythra, and Malos. How did Nia become queen? What happened to Mythra's child? And why is Malos' crystal still intact? Now, of course, this could all be answered in a future Xenoblade title, or even some random art book, but I guess the reason I'm so passionate about it being its own thing is that there's so much potential with those 3 questions alone. Many would say that Pyra and Mythra's character arcs are complete, so therefore they shouldn't appear again. And while I do somewhat agree with that, I think it'd be really interesting to explore how Pyra and Mythra function as 2 separate individuals. They've always had their own personalities, but their goals were the same. Their trauma was the same. But that's not true anymore. Or at least, it shouldn't be. They're going to have their own ambitions. They're going to have their own unique trauma. If anything, I think it's a disservice to their characters to assume that there was never any conflicts that came with that, and they just lived happily ever after. But the most obvious potential here is with Malos, and to prove that, I'm going to give an actual slice of fanfiction. I'm not saying it's the best idea, I'm just trying to get the cogs in your mind turning here. I honestly believe that just like Pyra and Mythra, Malos was brought back by Klaus. Klaus never antagonized Malos. He completely understood that it wasn't his fault. So if he was willing to give Pyra and Mythra another chance, I don't see why he wouldn't do that for Malos. And so now you have a Malos of free will shouldered with the burden of his horrific actions in the past. Even if he was influenced by Amalthus, it's not like he, or most people in the world, are just going to let that slide. That already could be very intriguing to tackle. There's a lot of avenues you can go with there. Like, you could have Pyra and Mythra try to help him cope with it. After all, they were in quite a similar dilemma not too long ago. Furthermore, and this is where it gets fanfiction-y, just like Pyra and Mythra, he probably retained his memories, meaning that now he would be forced to grieve the death of his Torna brethren, most notably Jin. He wouldn't be able to just ignore it anymore, and it would fully sink in that it was his fault that Jin died. That was one of the last things he touched on in the final boss battle, so I doubt he'd be able to process that easily. I'm talking self-loathing, survivor's guilt, and if they have the balls to do it, I don't care if this makes you mad, I'll say it, maybe even confirming that Malos fell in love with him. Maybe we'll find out what he told him during their last meeting. Regardless, the bond between Malos and Jin was integral to both of their characters. Malos would certainly take issue with surviving without Jin. Again, I am not saying that these ideas are amazing and they should definitely do them, and if they don't, I'm gonna be mad. I'm not saying any of that. But if you can't see the potential here, you're probably just not a Xenoblade 2 fan, in which case, you're not relevant right now. The point is, there is plenty of reason why there could be an additional chapter just like Xenoblade X, and a Switch 2 edition could be the perfect excuse for that. So those are my ideas for what could possibly be the Switch 2 editions for the Xenoblade franchise. Realistically, they're just updates, but still, it was fun to talk about for the 15th anniversary. If you have any ideas of your own, feel free to share them in the comments. You probably have some better ideas than I. You probably thought of things that were so obvious that I didn't bring up, and I'm out here in my fantasy land thinking about new chapters, new party members, mouse mode, just all these things, but it's just fun. It's fun to talk about. I'm glad I got to celebrate the 15th anniversary with all of you lovely people out there. Please keep being a good person, please keep being good to each other, and most of all, please keep hoping for those updates. I want them really badly, very soon. And yeah, it's just been a good time. I'm loving my Switch 2 personally. If you haven't gotten it yet, I hope you do eventually, especially when new Xenoblades drop. It's just gonna be great. I'll see you guys in the next one, whenever that is. And until then, you can't have a rainbow without Ryan. Don't forget me. I'm the girl with the gall. And what's the Xenoblade X quote? My favorite region is Sylvalum.
We've detected a giant energy surge in the vicinity of Sylvalum.
Does that still get you upset that it's Sylvalum? Not Sylvalum? Anyway, have a good one. Bye-bye.